G'day watchers, welcome to Perth Watch, your horology channel from right here in Perth, Western Australia. Today I have a watch from the Melbourne Watch Company, my second collaboration with them. The first watch I reviewed from Melbourne was the Sorrento Diver. That was done a while ago, so take a look at that review if you want a bit of an introduction to the company. I'm not going to repeat some of that information here, but rather we'll get into the review. So what they reached out to me for collaboration this time with regards to a model that they have launched this year. So it comes in this neat little box. It's got a bit of a wood finish to it. It's not real wood, but it's pretty solid. So let's flip the camera around now and get into this watch. All right, guys, so here we have the packaging on the table. Melbourne Watch Co. In the kind of a relief here, and then this is relief in faux wood. It's kind of a grayed out wood, which is kind of cool ash, I suppose you might say, but it's not real wood. It's thick card, or at best MDF. I'd have to rip it open to find out whether it's MDF or not, but I'm going to assume it's thick card. So a little bit of a manual here just to show it to you. Lonsdale Automatic, it says. Right, a little bit of history of the company. I'm not going to read it out, of course, just going to let you guys pause it and read it if you want to. Okay, operating instructions. Most of us won't really need to look at it for a three-hander watch like this one. Bit of warranty and social media. Okay, and then this is the warranty card, right? Just a little bit about the specs there, and then that's the cushion with the watch. In here, nothing too complicated, just a bit of a tag and then the 5 links which are removed from this watch. Okay, so let's just going to put that away and show you the watch in detail. So what we have here, guys, is the Melbourne Watch Company Lonsdale Automatic in black color variation. It does come in a number of other variations, and of course you can check out the website for those other models. Some of them in fact have sold out already. The MSRP for this watch for Aussies might be a little bit steep, right? It's 495 Australian dollars. If you're buying from international, which most viewers will be, from the US or elsewhere, the current exchange rate gives it 330 USD, so that makes it, I think, a lot more palatable and probably a lot more reasonable as a value proposition, but let me know what you think. All right, guys, so first up, as I do, let's talk about the movement, which is none other than the NH35A. Stats down the left there, and of course I will not be reading this one out because it is by far and away the most common movement I see on this channel. Rated accuracy as stated. In this case, pretty well regulated, I gotta say. It's running about plus 2 or 3 seconds per day in the 1 week or so that I've had this on my wrist already. The quick set date in this case is implemented on the window at the 3 o'clock position. It's black writing on white disk, as you can see there. Okay, so enough about the movement. Let's move on to the case now. So the case here is 42 millimeter in diameter. It is 12 millimeters thick in 316L steel, of course. The lug width is 22 millimeters with a lug-to-lug distance between my thumbs there of 49 millimeters, so fairly standard proportions for this type of case size. Overall weight with those links removed is 152 grams, which is kind of a bit of a middling weight. It's quite comfortable. You do feel it on the wrist, but it is not overly heavy by any means, or most people wouldn't think that this is overly heavy, I think, with a metal bracelet watch here. Finishing wise, okay, so circular brushing on the top of the bezel. It does have this nice, fairly nice cross hatching on the side of the bezel. Longitudinal brushing on the top of the lugs there, which transitions onto polishing on the side. Okay, both sides of the case are polished, and then at the bottom we have circular brushing, bottom surface of the lugs, as well as most of that case back, except that bevel is actually polished on that case back there. All right, and that display case back, you can see there's a black decoration on the rotor of that Seiko movement, but it is otherwise fairly undecorated. So screw down display case back, all right, with that black rotor on display there. It's got a cyan crown with the M for the Melbourne Watch Company. They've rated this watch at 50 meters water resistant. This is a screw down crown, so I'm fully confident that it will be a full 50 meters. And then, you know, with that type of rating, I probably wouldn't be too hesitant to take this into a pool. Strictly speaking, 50 meters isn't really for swimming, certainly not for snorkeling, but I feel that, you know, with the quality of this case construction, it probably will withstand a pool without any problems, surface swimming anyway. Okay, so let's just move on to the dial here, where I guess most of the difference in design is in the dial here. It's got a black sunburst center of this dial. It's multi-zonal on this dial, but it's got that sunburst black on the middle there. Printed words, which is just a Melbourne word there with the M symbol, and then Lonsdale at the bottom. I've kind of liked that they've kind of restrained themselves from putting too much on the dial here. And then outside that is a multi-element zurage, I suppose. You know, it's got that concentric circles on the outside there, broken up by the 12 indices, the 12 applied indices. And then it's got a printed chapter, which is part of that periphery there. But interestingly, they've also put a second 1/5 of a second chapter ring on the flange there. Now, is that too busy? I think actually, in some ways, this actually enhances the overall look of the watch. I don't mind that they've actually added that slight detail on the side there. It doesn't somehow make it overly busy, but that's just my subjective opinion. Let me know what you think. The hands are brush batons with a red stick for the seconds, and that has a M counterbalance, right, for the M logo counterbalance. So a nice splash of color and an otherwise monochrome dial here. Lume is on the two hands as well as the 12 indices. And of course, I'll put a lume shot right here for you guys to see. I assume it's superluminova. That's what they've used in the past, but they haven't stated exactly for this particular model. Okay, so moving on to the bezel, we've kind of shown you the finishing. This is of course fixed. You're not going to be a rotating bezel in a watch like this by any means. And then on top of the dial is a flat sapphire crystal with a bit of anti-reflective coating on the inside here. Okay, so that's the case here. Let's move on to the bracelet. Over here we have a 3-piece per link, right? Mostly brush, but there's a bit of a polish strips here along with polished slides. It does have solid end links, but it's push pins for the bracelet adjustment. Moving on to the clasp here, the clasp is press metal 3-point micro adjustment with a push button release. Solid deployant arms, but otherwise press metal for the clasp as well as the keeper here with that M symbol. Okay, so that's really the description of the entire watch. Let's just snap it on the wrist for a wrist shot for you guys now. And there we have it, the Melbourne Lonsdale automatic on my 17cm wrist. Fairly large for a dress watch, so it's more a casual style watch, and that's really what they've marketed this watch for. Casual, suitable for almost every occasion. 49mm is the lug-to-lug height on my 17cm wrist there. 12mm the thickness, okay, and that's how it sits. All right, so what have I enjoyed particularly about this watch? Overall, I'd have to say fairly solid package, right? I guess a lot of watches do meet these criteria, but it's got that Seiko movement, it's got sapphire crystal and not just mineral glass. A fairly good quality case, I have to say. The finishing is not bad, right? For this price range, it's probably around the same as Spinnaker, which is well known for fairly good cases for the price. The unique design element is more the cross-hatching on the bezel. Everything else is otherwise fairly generic on the case, I have to say. The dial is interesting, and it's got it's got that multi-element, multi-zonal finishing, right? That's really pretty nicely done. It's got an elegantly simple center because they've kept the text minimal, which I like, and that second chapter ring somehow I think complements the whole thing rather than making it overly busy or ugly. Somehow I think that's actually not a bad choice that they've done there with that chapter ring on the flange here. What are my concerns about this watch? Well, apart from the dial and the cross-hatching on the bezel, as I mentioned, it's otherwise rather generic. And by that, I'm referring to the overall case shape and finishing, right? The bracelet and the clasps, I think they look like you can probably get this from a Chinese OEM manufacturer. Certainly that clasp you've seen that dozens of times before, right? A class like this is nothing too special. Okay, so there we go. That's my thoughts on the Melbourne Lonsdale. Let's just flip the camera around now for the wrap up. So there you go, guys, my review of the Lonsdale Automatic from Melbourne Watch Company. Let me know your thoughts, particularly if you have any experience with Melbourne Watch. Many Aussies may be familiar with them, but if you own a model, I would certainly like to hear what you think. I think this particular model has some good design elements, but obviously there are certain factors that are slightly more generic. At the current international pricing, I think it's not too bad a value proposition, but let me know what you think in particular. Guys, if you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys again next time.